They laughed at me. They mocked me. They treated my dream like a joke. The homeowners association thought I was some small-time nobody with a silly little shop that would never last. But today, I don't just run my shop anymore. I own the entire plaza they tried to drive me out of. And trust me, watching the look on their smug faces when they realized it was priceless. But let me rewind, because for you to really feel the satisfaction of this revenge, you need to know just how deep the wounds went and how much I had to endure before I finally got the last laugh. When I first opened my store, I was just proud to have made it that far. It wasn't some flashy business, nothing Instagram-worthy or glamorous, but it was mine. I put every ounce of energy, every penny I'd scraped together into opening those doors. And at the beginning, I thought the HOA would be supportive. After all, businesses like mine brought life to the plaza, foot traffic, a sense of community. But I was so wrong. From the very first HOA meeting I attended, I knew I was in for trouble. They were all sitting there in their pressed suits, sipping coffee like they owned the world. I walked in nervously with my folder of paperwork, trying to smile, trying to fit in. But the smirks started almost immediately. One woman whispered loudly enough for me to hear, "Oh, look, the hobby shop owner finally made it." Hobby shop. As if what I had poured my soul into was just a cute little pastime. I sat down, pretending not to notice, but my stomach burned with embarrassment. Every time I spoke, I felt like they were just waiting to laugh. And laugh they did. When I asked about guidelines for signage, one board member chuckled and said, "Don't worry, no one's going to notice your sign anyway." The room erupted in snickers. I forced a smile. But inside? I wanted to sink into the floor. It didn't stop there. Over the months, their ridicule became routine. They picked on everything. My shopfront wasn't aesthetically pleasing. My sandwich board out front was a tripping hazard. They even fined me once because the flowers I planted were the wrong shade of red for their visual harmony guidelines. I wish I were joking. It was constant, petty harassment designed to make me feel small, to make me give up. And here's the thing. It worked, at least at first. I'd go home after meetings, collapse on the couch, and just feel worthless. I'd think, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I bit off more than I can chew. But then another part of me, the stubborn, fiery part, would flare up. Why should they get to decide my worth? Why should their smug opinions determine if I succeed or fail? The real breaking point came one evening during yet another meeting. I'd brought in some numbers to show that my store had actually increased foot traffic in the plaza. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd take me seriously. Instead, one of the older men leaned back, smirked, and said, "Shops like yours never last anyway. You'll be gone in a year. We're just waiting it out." Everyone laughed. They didn't even try to hide it. That night I went home shaking. My face burned from humiliation. My chest ached with anger. I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling until sunrise, replaying those words over and over. Shops like yours never last anyway. That was the night I made myself a promise. I wouldn't just prove them wrong. I would make them regret every smug word, every sneer, every laugh at my expense. So I worked, harder than I ever thought possible. I poured myself into that shop. I expanded my inventory, reached out to local communities, built an online presence, ran late-night promotions. I lived and breathed that business, and slowly it started to pay off. Sales grew. Customers became regulars. My shop wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. But I kept my head down. I didn't brag, didn't flaunt it. Let them keep thinking I was a joke. I knew what was coming. Years passed. The harassment never really stopped, but I grew immune to it. Every fine, every insult became fuel. And then, opportunity knocked. The plaza itself went up for sale. At first, I thought it was impossible. There was no way someone like me could afford it. But then, I remembered all those years of saving, every penny I had poured into a fund I never touched. I had also built connections, customers who believed in me, investors who had seen my determination firsthand. When I started asking around, doors opened. Financing lined up. Piece by piece, the impossible became possible. And one morning, I walked into a lawyer S office and signed papers that made me the owner of the very plaza where they had mocked me for years. It didn't feel real at first. I just sat there staring at the documents, my hands trembling. But then it hit me like a tidal wave. I had done it. I had actually pulled it off. The next HOA meeting was, well, let's just say it was the sweetest moment of my life. They sat there as usual, smug and ready to dish out their routine humiliation. I let them talk. I let them start their nitpicking, their little performance. And then, when the timing was perfect, I slid a folder onto the table. They frowned, confused. The president of the board opened it, started reading, and his face went pale. He looked up at me, stammering, "What is this?" I leaned back, smiled for the first time in one of those meetings, and said, "That's the deed. I own the plaza now." The silence that followed was delicious. Their mouths hung open. The woman who had called my shop a hobby? She dropped her pen. The man who said I'd be gone in a year? He turned beet red. I watched their smugness dissolve into pure, helpless shock. For the first time, they had nothing to say. And, oh, how I savored it. From that day on, everything changed. No more harassment, no more fines, no more mockery. They had no power over me anymore, because I was the landlord, and you better believe I enforced the rules fairly, but firmly. The petty tyranny was over. Looking back now, I realize their mockery was the best gift they could have given me. They lit a fire under me that never went out. They wanted me gone, but instead they pushed me to grow, to fight, to own. They underestimated me, and that's why it felt so good to prove them wrong. Revenge doesn't always come in shouting matches or public fights. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is quiet. It's walking into the very room where they mocked you, laying down the papers and watching their world crumble. It's knowing you didn't just survive. You won. So, yeah, they mocked my small shop. But now I own the whole damn plaza. And I wouldn't trade that feeling for anything. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and drop a comment. What is the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories just like this, because justice served cold is always the sweetest.